Hello, and welcome to a podcast called Gary with Beaton Man.
And me, Adam Etheridge. What are we talking about today, Tom?
Today, Adam, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift and her Eras tour, the presidential election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden that's happening in America right now, Dave Grohl at Wimbledon, how'd you say it again? Hawk Tuah? How'd you say it?
Hawk Tuah.
And the England football team's chances at this year's Euros. So we're going to kick us off with Taylor Swift first of all.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
This has been the most extraordinary experience of my entire life.
So we just watched the Taylor Swift Eras Tour trailer. What do you think of Taylor Swift, Adam?
Do you know, she's one of these weird phenomena for me because she's someone I don't mind in music. She's not someone I would be like, would imagine is, strangely wouldn't imagine is hugely popular. And again, it's one of those kind of the weird sort of things for me where I find the music sort of fine. I couldn't tell you how many songs I do like or how many I know. I just know there's probably the majority of the sort of the songs that are I suppose overly played. I mean, one of the ones we do play quite often in the car with the kids is the one where there was the memes with the goats where she's what's it called now? I'm trying to think what it is, but it's only things like that where that I kind of really kind of get exposure to because it's not really my generation. So I think as a person, she comes across as quite sort of vanilla to me. She's not sort of she's a young, well, she's a woman. She's not she's not young anymore, but she's definitely someone who is kind of using her youth to do these things. Because I mean, to be honest, if you're doing however many albums of songs in one tour or one night for many nights, then that's quite a lot to do. So I mean, I imagine she's got to be quite fit physically and vocally to even achieve a small number of dates. So the fact that she's doing such a big thing. For me, I wonder whether it's just that skeptic in me, whether it's just like, oh, time to just completely cash in on a period of my life where I'm sort of at maybe a peak of fame in terms of like a broad spectrum of people, because because I think that's it. She appeals to probably quite a lot of young women and then mums and things like that, where you have daughters they've got and things like that, so they sort of mums can enjoy that sort of show as well because the music's not particularly provocative, or it's just a bit kind of from what I have heard, it's at times a bit sort of I don't know, relationshipy. There's obviously a lot of sort of that kind of what's the right word to sort of what's the word? So influence. So like a lot of artists, probably for some singers, would love and things as a big inspiration for their music. So I think she's fine. She's not someone that I would be like busting the gut to go and see. But I just think it's one of those where she's just got that sort of enough following now that I think she's done the right thing in a way to cash in as much as she can, get as much money, because then she'll probably have to never work again if she doesn't want to then.
Yeah, she's just made a staggering amount of money. She's a billionaire now. She's richer than Paul McCartney, who has recently also become a billionaire.
Wow.
But I mean, I just like to read this article out here because I think you've got to give Taylor Swift some credit. Taylor Swift, this is from the Daily Record. Taylor Swift has been hailed as the world's largest contributor to eradicating food poverty per capita following her impactful move behind the scenes on her Eras tour. Taylor Swift has been praised for doing more than the government to help combat food poverty after kindly donating to food banks in every UK city she's performed in. Over the weekend, 34-year-old songstress brought the first part of her UK leg to a successful close after putting on show-stopping performance cities such as London and Edinburgh. All the while off the camera, she continued her tremendous efforts bettering the lives of less fortunate people. To much appreciation, the anti-hero vocals towards the Cardiff Food Bank has been recorded as the largest ever received by the organisation. The chief executive told, "We're going to buy an articulated lorry full of food and other most needed items to supplement our emergency food parcels." Biggs further elaborated how much of an impact Taylor's money will make. This will provide the weight equivalent to feeding 1,200 people 3 meals a day for 3 days, or 10,800 meals. This will be 2.5 weeks of what we typically distribute. So she has done an incredibly altruistic thing in each city she's performed in. And you've just got to give her credit for that. Now, the cynic in me would say, yeah, I mean, that doesn't do her PR any harm at all, does it? Tax write-off, there's all sorts of things you can go, yeah. It might not all be completely altruistic. But then again, I think altruism in itself can be not a little bit. It makes people feel good. There's always tends to be a reason that benefits people, whatever you look at altruism. So, even if it is a little bit cynical, she's done good in the world by furthering her own cause, if that is the case. So, good, fair play to her. I think on the music front, I'm a little bit like yourself. I don't dislike her music. There are 1 or 2 tracks that I do really quite like. One of them being, "Shake It Off." I mean, who doesn't like that? But it's a great pop song, and the other one is, I do like "Blank Space." I don't know if you know that song, but the music video to that's very good. But
let me just pause you there a second.
Yep.
Emily, I have to go back to bed, darling, because we're recording on, and then it means Uncle Tom's got to do more editing. Good night, darling.
So she's
Shake It Off.
So her, "Shake It Off," "Blank Space," great music video. And she can perform. She's been writing songs since she was 40, whatever. So you can't. There's a lot of things she deserves praise for. Do I think that musically, her music is befitting of the huge fame and acclaim that she's got? Possibly not. And it does seem to me that there's a lot of. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like the FOMO thing. Everyone's like, Taylor Swift, isn't it? It's just amazing. You've got to see it. So everyone else is like, shit, I better see that because I can't possibly miss out.
Yeah.
More than it is, she's got that many genuine fans that adore her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I suppose it is. You could argue the same for Beatlemania as well. It's people get wrapped up in this kind of group hysteria, don't they? But I don't know. I'm not knocking her, but I just don't think her music is that remarkable compared with her absolute staggering success,
Yeah. I think she's written a lot of songs that tick a lot of boxes. So she's, she can, the type of songs you could play quite frequently without the need to edit them down, or to, there's no need to kind of, bleep anything, or, or to blank anything. She's, as far as I'm aware, it does seem like she writes or creates her songs in such a way that they're not, or they don't upset. They're kind of easy sort of to just slot in a lot of, so you could probably, as a DJ, or you could just pick a Taylor Swift song and it probably would be received very, very well, because you just, it's kind of, I don't want to say they're generic, because they're not generic, but I think they seem very much like a formula for success, in the fact that they say they don't offend, and they don't they're not too kind of probably say provocative in any certain way, because she could quite easily go down like this whole sort of Pink way or anything, especially with her relationship with what's the with Kelly? No, what's the girl that did Raw and who was married to that silly British
Katy
bloke.
Perry.
Katy Perry, yeah, she had a bit of a thing with Katy Perry, didn't she, at one point? So one of the songs is aimed at her, and it's just all about a rivalry about but they used to be friends, and something happened, and I so, but that's probably, as far as I know, it's sort of the only kind of song that sort of is a bit sort of bitchy, sort of in a way, but even that still kind of isn't. As I say, isn't sort of racy or doesn't use any language that would be a problem. So I think that's what I mean. I think she just appeals to that kind of broad middle area where it's sort of, you either like her because you're probably in a kind of place where that sort of music fits a sort of a theme to your life, when you maybe a bit young and you're finding loves, or you might be getting in and out of relationships where you find a little bit of the sort of the drama around romance, but then, as I say, it's the kind of music that your mum or your sort of your parents wouldn't be sort of too kind of bothered about. They would quite enjoy kind of going and seeing. So I mean, if she does a good show, I think that tends to be the clincher with a lot of these artists these days, is putting on a great show. And I think you've got your Pinks and your Katy Perrys and all these sort of things, where they you get your money's worth. You don't just get someone who just stands there and sings. There's a lot of kind of there's a lot of technical visionary to the shows. So that's kind of, I think, the sort of expected thing these days, to sort of get a good entertainment. I mean, it's like one of the things I think when I went to see Robbie Williams once. I mean, I'm not a huge fan, but it was free ticket to go and see Robbie Williams, and it was a good show. I mean, I didn't particularly like his music, and I don't dislike his music, but it wasn't. Again, it's an artist that I think sort of, again, for me, it was more about the show that I took away from it, and I think that she's doing that sort of that thing where she's trying to get. I think it feels like she's trying to get as much out of this tour to just, that she's either got enough people that telling her the right things, or she's savvy enough to go, I'm at that point now where I can just sell out, and just sell out places wherever I go. Let's just absolutely blitz this period and give all the fans a big thing to remember. And then if I'm completely financially independent and secure for the rest of my life, and it's kind of like, it's almost like, as I say, she could write a number of bum songs after that if she wanted to, or if she accidentally had some, there's no pressure for her to do any more in some ways.
Can you imagine what it'd be like, though, having done a tour for as long as she will have done by the time that she's finished, all around the world, had that level of adulation, running around every night, the adrenaline, just used. Okay, maybe. She's not doing it every single night. She's maybe they're setting a stage up, aren't they? Then she's doing maybe 3 performances, and then they take the stage down, and then they move on and they set the stage up again. So she's getting a little bit of a break between it, but nonetheless, she's on the road and she's used to this kind of non-stop adrenaline kind of thing. And can you imagine how weird it would be then, that come down when you stop doing something like that? Regardless of how much money you've made, it must be a kind of a weird feeling. How do you deal with that?
We
wouldn't know, would we? I guess, but
no. But I suppose it depends on how you how you feel you've left it. So whether you felt like you've left a legacy, or if that's the way she's doing it, like some, trying to leave some sort of legacy that she's achieved this at this point, and this is kind of the time to be doing all this. She's never fitter, her voice is never better. She's kind of, if you're like at the peak of your ability as an artist, yes, it's a big risk to go and do all these tours, because especially if they're such big, then you miss a date for somehow because you just overdo it for some reason, or there is that pressure. But I think it's more that kind of, for me it seems like it's a, let's try and just do everything now, let's just give it everything, and then we'll see, because it just feels like that's it. It doesn't seem like she's doing this because she needs the money, or she needs to to raise a profile or anything like that. I mean, for a lot of artists, the touring is where they make the money, because the royalties is just. But I mean, she must make a lot of money still on the royalties. I mean, because
that's the other important thing to bear in mind with Taylor Swift, is that she's had this legal battle with her previous record company. She's re-recorded all her back catalogue so that she can get the royalties, which I think is, I just got to respect her for doing that, because that's just shows such determination and resilience to go, no, fuck you, I'm just going to re-record them all. And that's really, really good. And so she is a remarkable person. And I do think that she's got some really good songs. I think she's very talented. And yeah, I agree. I don't think she is doing this for the money or sort of out of a scarcity mindset. She's doing this because it brings her joy. I think she just genuinely loves doing what she's doing. And I think that does come across, and that's probably why her fans, she has got these really devoted fans. So, fair play to her. I mean, it just reminds me, I don't know whether you've seen this or not, but I recently watched the documentary about Bon Jovi. It's a 3-part documentary.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite good. Yeah, it's, I believe it's Netflix, and basically it's telling the story of Bon Jovi through the band. Now, Richie Sambora, the guitarist, did leave Bon Jovi some time ago, but he is in it. He does get interviewed about it. So it's good they do interview all the original band members. And Bon Jovi, of course, John Bon Jovi's voice just has really suffered due to health issues and stuff. And just that is what happens to singers. Some singers, they just really struggle, especially because he's always so great, isn't he?
Yeah.
Sort of, and so I don't know if you've seen, but he's done some really woeful performances live. Yeah. And I think it's, when you watch the documentary, you're like, oh, it clearly just goes through his heart like daggers, because he's worked so hard. He couldn't work any harder to get his voice back to where he wants it to be. He's done vocal coaches. And then it sort of ends with him having an operation. He keeps himself incredibly fit. He's always been clean living. He's never done drugs, and it's just you feel for him. But you're like, yeah, I know he's made loads and loads of money, but again, he comes across as a good, genuine sort of person, and you're just you're still rooting for him despite him being very well off. It's like, yeah, but it's a hole in his life. Yeah. He wants to perform. He wants to be good at what he does, and so that's quite an interesting documentary. Yeah, just seeing their story.
Have you seen that reminded me of the Celine Dion one as well, that's coming out or is out, where it's like she completely lost her voice, and it is again about her sort of learning or accepting that her career was over at first, and then learning to sort of try and regain some of her singing prowess. But obviously she'd had a lot of down since her husband died, but it was other things as well. There was abuse of things on herself, so she just kind of, I think she just sort of got to a point where physically she just was just in a very, very poor state. She was very, thin. She was anorexic and things like that. Where, so I don't know whether those things directly affected her voice, but I think it was just the sort of nail in the coffin for her, where she was, the only thing that was sort of her identity was her voice at that point, and then to lose that. And I think that's the same for a lot of artists, where if, like you say, you've got people who are true people and not just kind of like, just in it for the rock and roll, and you get people who go up there and they make noise, and actually it's just about the performance again. People just go, oh, well, he's well past it. Like, I think Kirsty went to see Whitney Houston.
Wow.
On the last tour, she went to see her at Sheffield Arena, and she said she was awful. Her voice was completely gone, and that was the sort of the last tour before she ended up killing herself. But it's the whole roller coaster for those people, where they as you say, it's either that they need to keep filling that hole with that thing they're doing, or it's just a want to be there for their fans in a live way. And it's a difficult one. I think the thing is for Taylor Swift, you say it's like, what's she going to do next? But it's like, if people have seen this tour, what else do they want to see? It's like, do you want to see it again? I mean, this is it. Is it any other show is going to be pale in consideration unless it's the same? Do you know what I mean? It's less she's kind of at that level where she's set the bar so high. Is that sort of an indication that she's actually, this is a bit of a legacy for her?
I think that's right. But I think that's the great thing. I think that she can basically do what she likes when this is finished, comfortable that she's given an absolutely memorable tour that will just be one of the classic kind of, people will remember it for the right reasons, and that will give her a lot of heartburn. Even if she just never tour again, she will have done a tremendous job. So you know what, I think we should leave it there and salute Taylor Swift and say, well done, good job done there, Taylor, and you brought a lot of people a lot of joy. And let's just celebrate that. So let's move on now. We're just going to move on to the US presidential race that's happening at the moment. I believe it's in November when people actually vote. There's a lot of talk about Joe Biden and his mental capacity. So let's just watch a video that's going to demonstrate that.
Since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
That $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look.
Oh God! Just the way Trump's looking at him.
I know. It's like he literally didn't have to fight it, did he? It was the word. I mean, some of the other commentators that have checked this out and sort of commented on it, and it's, I mean, even Biden supporters or Democrat supporters are just like, just astonished by the difference the guy is. I mean, it's sad. It's so sad because again, there was a further one a couple of weeks later. I think it might have been actually last week, where he was at a rally and there was someone who was sort of comparing, and they kind of went. And you did it really well, sort of thing. You like talk to him like he's a child, literally just like, and you did so well. And then there's people going like, did she just talk to him like an 8-year-old and give him the kind of the pat on the back for those sort of massaging those egos when he's just stood there, is he 80 old now or nearly 80? And it's one of those where he, that kind of era of man where that's the realization where people are kind of feeling so sorry for him that support him, but also just astonished that he's just not stepping away, and just admitting that it's just too much for him. There's not been. Go on.
Well, it's one of those situations where you often kind of look back in history and it's like, oh my gosh, that's absolutely remarkable. How do we not realize that at the time? It's like, no, we are realizing this at the time. We're watching a car crash happen before our eyes, and it just feels like somebody get that poor fella out of there. He needs to be, at home, like being looked after, and it just, no matter what your views are of him, I know that Trump and some of his supporters will say, well, he's corrupt, blah blah blah. What politician isn't really, it seems, but. It really, like you say, it's just the humanity of it, just watching this human being that isn't capable of really standing up for himself in a verbal kind of joust, let alone running the largest superpower in the world. And you just think, come on now. And I think that's the thing, isn't it, now that the, as you say, even his own supporters are like, okay, we need to fix this. We just need to get him out of here. We need to get somebody else in, because there is no way he is going to win the Democratic, presidency. Surely not.
The thing is, even if the Democrats voted for him, it's not just, it's that swing vote that they need, is those people that are, sat there going, well, I've got to pick between Trump and Biden. And then it's like, it's a similar thing to, what we've got here. You've got people that are just not really reliable to govern in that kind of in the personal way they are, and I think that's the real tough thing for voters at the moment. Is like, Americans are much more likely to vote for someone who presents well, even if he talks a load of shit. If they'll go with, actually, if it came down to who's got his finger on the button at the right time, it probably Trump is just looking like the less of the two. That's going to be an issue. And I just think it's in some ways, like I said when he got in, Biden got in, I thought it was going to be one of those fast tracks for what's their name? Everyone keeps calling it different things, don't they? What's the vice president called?
It's not still Kamala Harris, is it? Still Kamala Harris?
Yeah, or Kamala, or whatever they say. They keep calling her different things. But so she's still number two. It's both him and her. And I thought that was the whole point, was that he'd get them in, and then over a year or two he'd probably retire, and then they'd have another. Then they'd be like, oh, Democrats have got the first woman president. They've had the first black president. Just kind of like just getting to ticking all those kind of reasons to vote. The Democratic Party, and I just think it's one of those where she's just made herself out to be, again, a bit of a liability with the things she says. So I just think it's coming down to now this whole, it's just a popularity contest. I mean, this is what Ronald Reagan, how he won, because he was just popular. I mean, he turned out to be quite a good president in the end, but initially he was just a movie star, and that was what really kind of he came. He was good at talking in front of the camera, and and he was well liked because of his of his movies. So I think there is this trap now they've got in America where if they carry on the way it is, it literally is. Do you vote in a guy who has got capacity issues, and you think, well, actually, we'll just get the Democrats in, and we'll just sort out, we'll get Kamala Harris in, or they'll switch someone or whatever, or it's do you agree that all this stuff you've been hearing about Trump is actually just more smoke than actual thing, than reality? And just go, well, actually, out of the two of them, he comes across as someone I'd probably expect to be more lucid when it comes to making those decisions. He might come across as, again, a bit of comes across as a sly dog all the time, and the things he says, I mean, the actual, from interview to interview, he contradicts himself so much. I mean, it's amazing how much of the kind of the sort of the footage, the white put footage together of him talking, being asked the same questions, and he'll just say anything just to answer the question in the time, and it's a very, very politician-y thing to do. So he's like well versed in being a politician, because he just finds a way to answer or present himself in a way that makes you think, you're either completely astonished, or you're like, wow, yeah, he actually, he left me feeling with a good feeling there. And I think that's how he comes across. He's very charismatic, and
he is. He's charismatic, and he understands what it is to do a really good soundbite and to really get to the nub of the issue. He's got good comic timing. He's got the skills of a comedian. He's got the skills of a playground bully, and that he can just pick on the thing that his opponent is weak on. He's very good at that. And also, I suppose I have thought for a long time, yeah, but he's just a crook. He is, like, people say, oh, yeah, but he's been, it's all a fix, and they're just, they're trying to bring him down. The fact is, he's been convicted by a jury of 12 people. It's not like the judge has made the verdict. The jury decides. The judge just gives the sentence. So he is incredibly corrupt. His moral scruples are just nowhere. Before he became president, we would say he's a bully. But then at the same time, even I can recognise that people might say, yeah, that's all true. But you know what? I want him in a room with the North Korean leader or Putin, because I want the bully to be on my side, because there are enough strong men and bullies in the world. So, yeah, I'll vote for him because he'll stick up for us. So, yeah, he has got that going for him. It's like, I don't really care if he follows the rules, because he's a strong, charismatic person. So, yeah.
I think the other thing is as well is that he's someone who also knows how to manipulate the media, even though especially with like all this kind of like writing things off as fake news when he doesn't like the answer. And again, it reminds me of the sort of the Humphrey thing in sort of an analogy in Yes Minister, and is that kind of being able to spin and spin and spin, and just to be able to just use the situation and spin it and deflect and just, he's just got that ability to kind of like, throw something and wow you with something, or or just say. I mean, to be honest, the fact that he used his conviction as something to kind of joke about. He's like, I've been, even Al Capone has been indicted as much as I have, and just kind of taking it as a badge of honor. They're I'm still good here, and I'm a bigger crook than Al Capone. And I say, I mean, he's quite honest about some of the things about the tax evasion. I mean, Biden tried to nail him on tax evasion. He said, "Well, the law's there for me to use, and it's up to people to tighten that up, and that's part of your government." And it's it. So he then blames the Democrats for allowing it to happen, and so he comes out smelling like less shitty roses than he should do, So I think he's got that ability to turn these things into kind of badges of honor, and his supporters I don't think it would make a damn bit of difference if he was photographed with his hand in the drawer with the kind of just like kind of such a incriminating kind of thing that would happen, or he would be found to be doing, and it's literally sort of got banged to rights. You couldn't get it any more guilty sort of view of something, and people would just disbelieve it. People would just say it's fake.
Well, I agree, and it's the 4th of July today. They go to vote in America on the 5th of November, so I think that we've got plenty of twists and turns that are on the way before then, and I think that it'd be interesting when we get to November, because I don't think that those same two people will be in the race to be president. Yeah. So, moving on, let's have a little look at Wimbledon.
What have we got next?
We've got Wimbledon. We've got Dave Grohl at Wimbledon, and we're going to take a look at Dave being.
Is he singing like a little wheel going on a summer holiday or something like that? Or was he,
like Cliff? Yeah,
like Cliff. He's having a Cliff moment. That'd be quite funny.
Dave, can I quickly just get your prediction for Wimbledon winner, please?
What?
Who do you think's going to win Wimbledon?
What?
Who's going to win? How about the men's?
No clue.
The women's?
Couldn't say.
Have a good day.
Do you watch Wimbledon? Do you watch the tennis?
It's one of those strange things. I think I used to sort of watch like the final. I think I used to take a sort of an interest in either that or like when old Murray was around. I think it kind of did a little bit more of an invested interest in that way. But no, it's kind of really kind of gone past me this year. I think since COVID, I think it's one of those strange things where just these sort of tournaments are just kind of like just not part of, and maybe it's not just COVID. I think it's more the Netflix scenario now, where the pay-per-view television. I don't watch a lot of like license fee TV because I don't buy into that anymore. So I don't watch anything really live. So I think in the past that was pretty much what you used to have. It was just like when you only had so many TV channels, it'd be like passing from BBC One to BBC Two mid game. And then when they got the red button and all that kind of thing, and it's like, oh, you can watch all these different courts with the red button. So there was a big thing about that. So nowadays it's a bit more off my radar. I do sometimes watch these kind of things on YouTube or something like that, where they show some of the rallies and things like amazing. I mean, my God, they're like just juggernauts now. I mean, how on earth they return the ball from the speed that they hit these, because they're like, these guys are huge. They're so limber and nimble, and it's just like baseline games. But you get the odd guy that sort of, I think there's a couple of guys now that are, it's like Boris Becker-esque, sort of leaping around and doing sort of shots that are just unbelievable, putting their body on the line. But yeah, this is sort of that baseline game especially for a lot of the men's. I do find it's quite sort of repetitive. So it's not got that kind of that the sort of excitement as I was used to watch when I was a younger person. I think there was much more kind of entertainment to the kind of the games, because you say people weren't just big hitters. If they were big hitters, you had to use a lot of close skill and all that sort of stuff to actually try and combat that power. So I think we just kind of we and again you got your Federer and your Nadal's sort of off on their thing now, and it was all about just one guy. It was all about Djokovic, pretty much all that. So again, I think, as I say, it just kind of got to that point for me where just the interest would just wane for the fact that it wasn't sort of the exciting tennis that I would have watched back in the day. What about you?
Well, I was going to say I'm not that bothered, and a bit like yourself, I think it feels a bit like it's an end of an era, and there's a bit of a void for the next superstar, because you just had this Federer. It was for a while. It was really Federer and Nadal. And then Djokovic seemed to just overtake, didn't he? And then he was just the supers, maybe a little bit younger than them. And then he's kind of reaching the end of his career. From a British point of view, I obviously got Emma Raducanu. There's a young guy that I did catch a bit of the other day, a British player. And it was a really good rally. I'm not a massive tennis fan, but I thought he seems pretty decent. So, but I'm not a massive tennis fan, but it is a summer of sport. We've also got the Euros, we've got the Olympics. So, from the Euros point of view, obviously you're Welsh. Do you follow it? Sometimes you follow England when Welsh aren't in it?
Well, I think the thing is, for so many years that Wales didn't even get a look in. So I mean, I think there was pretty much he had to support. He didn't have to, but you support England because they were pretty much the only team in the home nations to watch. So I think it was almost like that. It was almost like where they have the Great British team in the Olympics and stuff, and it generally just used to be a load of English people. And I say, like, you'd have the Great British football team or something. It's just the English side or whatever. And I think that's the thing. You got to sort of. I feel like you've got to support the home nations regardless. I'm a bit like that. I'm not sort of someone who kind of would support a different nation to perpetuate a stereotype of Wales and England always being the enemy, in that sort of thing. And I think if they do it, it's great for the country itself. I think that's the thing. It's more about what, and I think you and I talked about this off camera last week, where I don't think the country of England have had a big thing to celebrate for quite a long time in that respect. I mean, we had sort of Ashes for one point. There was that sort of, there was a big thing about that. And again, there was obviously the Olympics before that. And I think we just seem to be lacking that sense of just to get, just to bring some people together and go, yes, there's something to celebrate about being British or English, and or both. And it would be nice for them to do that for anyone who is who is not just necessarily English, just sort of is kind of in this sort of vicinity. I think the Scottish wouldn't be that particularly bothered, but it's one of those where I just think it's good for people who are to have that kind of harmonious thing to kind of get behind. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do think that it is good when people get behind the team. In previous years, I mean, I remember the World Cup 98 really well, and you and I were both at university at the time. I used to go around to your student flat quite a lot, and we watched a lot of the games together, and I remember us being really euphoric and enjoying it. It just seemed to be I have fond memories, probably of the age we were as well. With but we didn't have social media then, and now you see what people really think. It puts me off my fellow England fans because I'm just like, what are
all
you
the haters,
on?
isn't there?
All the haters. There's just so many haters. You know, I watch at the end of the day, right? Gareth Southgate was the first England manager since Bobby Robson rather in 1990 to get us through to a semi-final in 2021, or 2018. First one since Alf Ramsey in '66 to get us through to a final in 2021, or is it the other way around, 2018, 2021? And he's had such a good win record, and now we are through to the quarter final. Now, we haven't got there in the most stylish of ways, and it isn't the most entertaining football, but the guy gets results. But all the England fans can say is how bad a manager he is, how he's incredibly lucky, how if it was another manager, basically he's just got really, really good players, so an absolute idiot would do the same. You know what I mean? It's just down to pure luck. It's like, yeah, but it's not really, is it? It's not, because all the players absolutely love playing for him and they will say they'll do anything for him. Yeah, I've never heard players talk about like that about an England manager. Clearly he is doing something. And the thing is as well, is that people in the last game were very critical, in the last couple of games, about him not making substitutions and going, why isn't he playing them? Why is he playing them out of position? Why is he bringing them on? Bring them on, bring them on. And he didn't panic, and he didn't just make loads of substitutions at half-time when we're down, because the whole point, nobody picked up on this, was because the reason he's been a successful England manager is because he has faith in the players, and he shows faith, and he backs them, and he doesn't make snap decisions and go, right, you're playing shit, I'm going to bring someone else. And he's like, no, I believe in you, and I'm going to keep you on the pitch because I think that you're going to turn a corner. And that is why the players play for him. But nobody seems to pick up on that. It's just like, oh, yeah, bring them on. Yeah, well, yeah, if you're an England manager, the camp would bloody hate you. So,
because it's chasing it, isn't it? There's the difference between swapping someone out because you think they've given 110% and they need to be brought off, or because you're in a comfortable lead or something like that, and you need you give people some game time and stuff like that. But I think you're right. I think it's a similar sort of thing with the rugby sides, is that you can see how people go, oh, get some fresh legs on and this, that, and the other. But actually, I think the cohesion that comes from playing, I mean, more so in rugby, I think, because of the kind of the intricate way that the game is played. I think there's so much for the kind of the part of it being consistent. And yes, okay, when people aren't playing well, it's easy just to swap them out, but at the same time, then that gives that you've got an imbalance in the effort then, because you've got people who are really raring to try and go, with alongside those who are kind of trying to then work out how to sort of play this person in or whatever, and to sort of play with them for however long that period is. So there's always that kind of point of it being sort of gingerness towards, for the first however long before they settle in. So it is a tough decision and tough thing to do at any time, unless you're like, yeah, look, the striker's absolutely fucked, and he needs, we just need someone. And if it is just a case of crossing it into, that sort of thing where you think, right, the ball needs to be here, and that's where he should be. And if he's not there, then he's not doing his job, and that's that kind of thing. It's that sort of, when, again, I go back to the analogy of rugby players, when you get the great teams, they pass a ball expecting someone to be there. And 9 out of 10 times in the great teams, even if it's a shit pass, the great players will be able to make it into something. So, but it's because they expect that person to be in a particular place is why it looks so good when it works. Because if you're you're looking to pass and you've got that split second of thinking to do, especially in the speed that these games are playing, especially football. You close down and it's milliseconds before that option isn't available anymore. And it's those moments that are sort of, sometimes people make a pass and it look like, whoa, who's it passing to? And it's like, yeah, but actually that wasn't a shit pass. That was because that guy really should have been there. And and it's the expectation of who should be there and what they're going to be and how far forward or whatever, or how deep they're going to be, is on the expectation of a particular type of person they're trying to play to. So I think it's easier for your Michael Owens and your Shearers and things like that, because they as well as them being infamous goal hangers, and Lineker as well, infamous goal hangers, they were able to. They had the skill to make something of, even if it wasn't a volley in kind of situation. They still had the ability and the skill to actually turn that into a striking option. So you've got the talking about Harry. What's his name?
Harry Kane.
Harry Kane. How he's had a very lackluster couple of games and things like that. Again, sort of expecting him to be a bit more ferocious on the kind of up forward and all this thing. Again, I don't know what the guy's stats are, but these are the sort of things you hear. And again, it's the pundits that are saying it, but it's the fans that, again, it's like the wildfire to it. You get the people go, yeah, I agree with that, and they all think they're an expert. So it's
oh yeah, everyone thinks they're a bloody expert, don't they? That's just what annoys me. It's just like, right, the manager is spending the whole of that. This is their life thinking and planning about this, watching videos, analysing. He's with the players. He knows. He gets inside their heads. He talks to them. But people just disregard all that. It's like it's like he's just woken up and thought, "Oh, I'll just play that team there." It's just like. Yeah. You fucking idiots! You don't understand. I don't understand clearly. I've not been in there, but I have some inkling. It's not just kind of made up on the spot. A lot of thought and planning goes into this, and things that people wouldn't possibly know about. Are going on behind the scenes to try to strategize and to try and get that result, and taking into all sorts of factors. But I think maybe if I cared more about it, I would be more like they. Maybe that's it. It's just that I don't care as much about football as these people do. But it's just the sort of the. What's the word I'm trying to look for? Just the vitriol of these people. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is it was like when they missed in the penalties. Was it the final or the semi? I want to say it was the final against Italy. And then everyone was just so on their backs, and it wasn't done for getting to the final and for getting to the point where you almost won it. It's like, you didn't win it, you fucking idiots. It's like, no, you're a fucking idiot. You unbelievable. And you were just mentioning Harry Kane. Everybody's been on his back. Got the winner in the Slovakia game. So yeah, people are just more. So yeah, it does wind me up a bit.
I think Southgate, was it Southgate or was it his team? The one of the young lads who missed the penalty in the final last time. I think it was either his team, his club side, or the England side. The next game that he was in, he was the one who was taking the penalty. So it was one of those moments where it was like, you can't let this be a thing. So literally,
that's good. I didn't appreciate that.
Straight into it, just when you've got to just start scoring penalties. And it's a bit like what you said to me about black ball games in pool, and it's like you should just practice potting black balls, just have a whole table of black balls, and just get used to it just being another ball. and
Yeah.
then take out the whole pressure of it being a winning shot. It's just another ball that you just got to get in that pocket. And I think,
Yeah, it's true. Have you watched that Ronnie O'Sullivan where he goes around America and he plays pool hustlers?
no, I didn't see it yet. No,
Yeah, it's quite
yeah,
good. Yeah, you might quite like it. He plays. I don't know if you've heard of Earl the Pearl Strickland. Yeah, he's like a bit of a legend, and he plays him, and kind of Ronnie gets a little bit hustled because the thing is, he I always think, snooker players, it's just so much, they would wipe the floor with pool, but it's not the case. It's a different game. It's a different size table. It's different tactics, and it's
different mind games as well.
Different mind games, yeah. But it just put me in mind of that.
I think the thing is with the England side, I think I genuinely think that every time England play, people are expectant that they should win because they're like, oh, on paper we should be, we've got all these people and we should beat these countries, and it's like, I suppose, if you've got people who are statistically, scoring goals for their club or whatever it is, but actually they found this with other countries and other sports where if they don't play for long enough with each other, it's just impossible, and sometimes the pressure of being like a sort of high sort of what's the right word? Not high priority, but high kind of levels sportsmen in their kind of in their field. It's that kind of it's that expectation that you should be achieving this amount of success, and it's like we should guarantee ourselves a Euro, or guarantees ourselves a place in the final in the World Cup or something. And I think the thing is, it's like there's that kind of it's the pain of not achieving for so long, but at the same time being like so critically hard that we should be doing that. We should be beating everyone in the world. So there's almost a bit of an English thing about that, where there's an element of superiority mindset.
Yeah.
Like,
you're right. Actually,
we should be beating these countries. And it's like, we invented this sport, and it's like it's kind of that kind of ilk of going like the only reason we went around and started touring cricket around the world and teach it to other countries so we could beat them at it. It was that kind of and then when they started beating us at it, it was like, oh fuck, it's like not as fun now. So it's like, so again, like the Aussies are just the typical thing. It's like this is why a lot of countries have this poisonous relationship with England, because it is almost that kind of historical kind of superiority element of, even though there's not a huge amount of success in football particularly, but it is that almost that expectation that actually, from other countries' side, we could just stick it to England because they think they're fucking special, and then England being like, fans, England fans being like, we should fucking beat them, and it's like, and I don't know, it's the thing that's a tough place to come from, especially if you're pre-programmed to expect success, but also have a lot of disappointment as it's like that. It's like denial in a way, because it's like they expect them to win, but actually it's almost that kind of putting aside the fact that there's been so many defeats at the certain point. It's like, oh, well, we got to the quarterfinal, got to the final,
You've hit the nail on the head there. This is the thing, and I think that's where I come from with it, is not a place of denial. I think it's a place of, we've seen them lose an awful lot and get fairly close, or very close, and then not win. We haven't won anything in like whatever is it 50, I don't know, 60, 60, nearly 60 years, isn't it? It's like, let's go into it with slightly low expectations, and then hey, if we do well, great. Whereas people are like, unless we win it, we failed.
Yeah.
And you're always going to set yourself up for a huge amount of disappointment, and that's the mentality of a lot of England fans. Anything less than winning the tournament is failure. It's like, well, yeah. So every other team who's taken part has absolutely failed. Then, other than the winner, it's like, how does that work? That's just a really zero-sum game. But I think we've talked about England. It's making me depressed. So so we're now going to go for so we get a little bit lighter, but it's with something a slightly more sinister sort of tone to it, which is about this. What do you want? What do you call it, Adam? I can't get this through my head. What's it? What's the Hawk Tuah? Say it again.
So it's basically a girl in America who's been asked a question on camera by a sort of when they sort of interview these people at sort of bars and things like that, and she's had a bit of a phenomena where she's made a comment about what was her maneuver to pleasure a man in the bedroom, sort of thing. And it's just obviously she's probably quite inebriated, and then this whole kind of just extraordinary kind of burst of fame has come off it, and it's a bit of a kind of a base thing, but actually it's kind of it's one of those funny kind of moments where actually when you think about what it is, it's just one of those moments of a poor decision made while on camera to say such a thing, and then it just seems to blown up in so many different ways that it's such a strange phenomena. And that was one of the funnier. I mean, there's so many of these things that are out there. I mean, and as I say, it appeals. As I said to you before, it appeals to men because you think, oh, she's a bit raunchy, and she's saying what every red-blooded man would want, to basically just be a bit filthy in the bedroom, sort of thing. But actually, there was this. I think the second thing I'd heard about this whole, seeing the video, then the second thing I heard about it on social media was that she was a primary school teacher, and that she'd been sacked from a job. And then there was this, so that kind of like made people start having comments. Well, maybe she shouldn't be doing these things if she's in a position of, influence and things like that. And then it transpires that she's not. She did an interview with a woman on the telly, and she's not even 21, so she said she can't even work in that sort of that profession, and it's just this media frenzy where people have got on this bandwagon for this whole kind of movement of for the whole teachers be saying things on social media and it being used against them in sort of employment and all this sort of thing. So it's either been stolen by someone who's kind of thought, well, make this up, or again, if someone's just made it up to I don't know, to make it kind of more controversial, and it's got legs on it, where then people have got behind this whole kind of movement to sort of, she shouldn't have been fired and she should sue this, and they say she's just I think she works in a spring factory or someone that actually helps make springs, and she's just a normal girl who's said something silly on telly or on a video, because she's just probably had a bit to drink, and she's just going to say, just thought it'd be funny to say, and it's just took the internet by storm, especially the TikTokers. But there's so many different songs out there, and some she's she's sort of actually sort of endorsed in a way, because she's gone to there was video of her at a gig, and with one of the people that sort of parodied her, used her the sound bite as part of their song, and she sort of embraced that. So I think it's one of those, again, it's an example of how something that's kind of, a bit blue for dad sort of thing, that's been turned into this, multiple crusade element for people who just don't even really know the facts. And I doubt that we've talked about this before, where people making this sort of movement for someone else's benefit, or they feel like it's for someone else, in their name, to serve another purpose or serve their own purposes or whatever. And it's like, get off the bandwagon, guys. Not even informed. You're just regurgitating hearsay.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on these things?
It's bonkers. I just think it's a really interesting story because I had not heard or seen this video at all, and then I saw it shortly before we actually started the podcast, and then you told me the background. I was like, and I was quite astonished that it got to the level where there was this debate about she was a teacher and all this, and then it turned out that was completely untrue, and it just shows you the modern version of Chinese whispers, that people will just try to make sense of something, number one, and fabricate stuff, either sort of willfully, or just because they misunderstood something or what have you. Number one, people make sense of stuff and turn it into something it's not. But also, opinions are like arseholes and everyone's got one. And it's like, what business is it of people to make, to judge this person who's just said something flippant on, literally it probably lasts all of 3 seconds or whatever, doesn't it? It's like, to make such a big deal of it. But that's what a viral video can do. It's just, and it's bonkers, isn't it? What makes one video viral and another one not? It's crazy.
Well, that's it. She said, I don't want myself to be known forevermore as the Hawk Tuah girl, but at the same time, it will be. I mean, unless she somehow does something that sort of transcends that, that's going to be the thing. It's going to be there forevermore. These videos of the little memes and all that sort of stuff, because people just jump on the kind of the need to kind of make another little joke out of it or something like that, and make a funnier joke and trying to best the other person who's memed it. And I mean, even have you ever heard of the phenomenon about golf matches where golf pros? Well, there's a bit of a thing that some of the spectators do at the pro golf tournaments, where they shout like "Get in the hole!" When they do like big drives off the actual tee. So like they might be on what they call a par 5, where it's like impossible to hit it in the hole, but they shout things like "Get in the hole!" and they're like, you fucking idiot. But then it gets worse, where people are just like, we'll have to do another one on it because it's quite funny, but it is the new thing where this guy hit this monster drive and someone just went Hawk Tuah, and it just like, it was just, it's such an in thing, but actually, it's that kind of, it's the part like of American spectatorship where, like the baseball games where they kind of, they're doing that whole kind of like roasting players and things like that, where they like, bada. It's the kind of it's sort of that kind of mentality of like, it's not like saying, yeah, great shot. But then even that, sometimes people just, just get a bit overexcited and just like try and get themselves on the camera, on the sound, at these things. So they say these things to try and get it picked up. So they go, that was me. You know, we were at the snooker that one time.
Yeah.
We tried to make a noise at the end of the match to try and sort of just say, oh, when we watch that back, we can hear ourselves go, woo, or whatever. I think it's a bit of that as well, where it's just that kind of, you'll get picked up or commented on, because it's ridiculous. But I think that's the fun side of it. And when people are kind of, you know, do these things and it becomes a, you know, it's a giggle and it's to say just, you know, it fits into war and, you know, that kind of, you know, those sort of songs and things like that. And someone did a song too, Hawk Tuah, and like heavy metal, Hawk Tuah, and it's funny for the few seconds. You wouldn't listen to the whole song of that. You know?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
short form video. Yeah, that's the way to go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, listen, it's been, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think we're going to end it there, John.